What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and this one break down what's going on with Tesla stock, what you should be watching for when it comes to earnings that just came out. I'm going to go over some important financial numbers for Tesla as well very quickly in this video. Before I break anything down on all this information, before I talk about what's going on with Tesla stock, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm personally not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. Anyways, let's talk about Tesla, what's going on with it so far. So I'm recording this before the earnings call has come out so far. I just want to get this out there as soon as possible. Tesla was going crazy in the after hours. This thing ended up dropping all the way down to 282. Then it pumped all the way up to $296 a share, all the way back to the 280s, back to the 297, all the way down, just going back and forth like as if it's gone mad. And then Tesla's now just getting very tight, very, very flat. It's only up about 0.2%. We're going to see a very big move once the earnings call officially starts, because we're going to learn more details about what Tesla's expecting, what we should be looking out for in terms of growth, guidance, what they're projecting when it comes to any potential recessions, macroeconomic factors, and many more details about their products, which we're going to be learning about, and their production means. So we're still waiting for the bigger news to come out, but we do have some numbers we could be looking at for now. Looking at the earnings for Tesla, we have it right here. Tesla's revenue was about 24.9 billion, beating expectations, with EPS at 0.91. Once again, beating expectations as well. So good job, Tesla. They beat on EPS and revenue. However, that alone is not everything, okay? There have been plenty of times where Tesla beat on everything and still ended up tanking in its share price because of other factors. So just be prepared, be open-minded nonetheless. To add on to this, United Airlines beat on EPS, and they also beat on sales. So they did relatively well. For IBM, they beat they beat on EPS, and then they ended up missing on sales. I just wanted to note that. And this is important because we did see their revenue down 0.4%. Their gross margins are up about 160 basis points. And besides that, things are looking pretty decent for IBM so far. Now, Netflix came out, they missed on revenue, but they beat on EPS, and their margins went to about 20% versus the 19% expectation. Pretty decent so far. But we did see Netflix tank afterwards for other reasons. So these are the earnings coming out. We're still waiting for more information on the outlooks and guidance and calls and etc. But for now, so far, so decent going forward. Now, for Tesla, I just want to remind you guys that production was 497,000 for this quarter. Deliveries were 466,000. So the highest quarter of all time for Tesla. And here are some more numbers about it. Let me see if I could zoom into this a little bit. Maybe you guys could see this a little better. Actually, it would be better if I don't, so you can see all the numbers. So I do apologize if this is kind of small. I can't really do too much without displaying everything at once. But what we could see is that year over year, we're looking at their overall revenue up about 46%. It did go up for Q2 to about 21 billion. Once again, quite good overall. And that's just for the automotive revenue, just that alone, which is still up. Their energy generation and storage revenue is up about 74%, growing quite a bit year over year. And we did see a slight decrease in Q2 compared to the previous quarter. And then also we saw an increase for services and other revenue, once again going up for Tesla, up 47%, which is good for them. Total revenue is up about 47%, like I said before, pretty good at about 24.9 billion, beating expectations, which is great. Their overall gross margins in total were at about 18.2%, a little bit lower than 2023 Q1, but it's not that horrible in my opinion. A little bit better than what some analysts were expecting. This is aligned with their expectations, whereas other ones were expecting it to be worse. So not bad so far. Their operating expenses did go up to over 2 billion. That's also up quite a bit. And we did see another increase in their operating margins. I'm sorry, a decrease in their operating margins to only 9.6%. So this is actually not very good. This number right here, the operating margin dropping the way it did. So we'll see what Tesla says about that when it comes to their adjustments. And besides that, you could look at everything else right here. If you want to just pause the video, you could just relook at this. I want to try to get through this pretty quickly. Growth in deliveries was up quite nicely. We saw growth in other parts, which was good. And we did see some reductions, such as the negative FX impacts. Profitability was once again reduced a little bit when it comes to pricing. The cost of production ramps for the 4680 cells and other things did change too. There was an increase in operating expenses driven by the Cybertruck, AI, and other large projects, which had a very negative impact on the overall productivity. And on top of that, the gross profit growth ended up going well up for the energy sector, so that's good for them. And we did see lower costs per vehicle, once again, based off them utilizing materials a lot more efficiently. That is good for them. And when it comes to cash, I know these letters are kind of small. I do apologize. I can't really do much about it. Let me try to zoom in if I could, just a little bit, just like this. It says that the quarter end cash and cash equivalents and investments increased to about zero point 0.7 billion, or by zero point 0.7 billion to about 23.1 billion in Q2, driven mainly by free cash flow of 1.0 billion overall, kind of offset by other financial activities. That is worth noting. That is good for them. It's actually a little bit better than expected because many people expected it to be like at a loss. And looking at production, I already went over this many times before. We saw big increases in production. They're up about 86% year over year compared to like previous times. And then their deliveries are up about 83% year over year, and a very, very nice amount of growth looking at the previous quarters. Very good for them. You can see the solar numbers are right here. The supercharger stations, excuse me, are also continuing to grow. You can see all the numbers right here. You can even pause the screen right here if you want to see them. And looking at more details, we can see right here, we're continuing to see more growth for the capacities of their gigafactories in California. Shanghai is continuing to grow, but they're not anticipating a massive increase in production for the time being. I believe they mentioned that it may stall a bit in Shanghai. But that's completely fine because as long as they maintain their margins and their growth, things could be good for them. We're also expected to see a lot more growth in Texas and other parts of the world, Berlin too. That is once again very good for them, seeing these capacities increasing. So Texas, especially with the Cybertruck coming out, that's very, very good. And in Nevada, we have the semis coming out too. Also very, very awesome. And then we have the next gen platforms and the roadsters to be determined right about here. So very awesome stuff. We're continuing to see nice increases according to their vehicle capacities. California, Nevada, and Texas, they're still doing well here as they're improving their 4680 cell production. And in Shanghai, it says right over here, they're not expecting, let me just zoom into this. Sorry about that, guys. I do apologize. It says, we do not expect a meaningful increase in weekly production run rate. So they're not expecting like a massive amount of weekly production as of right now in their largest export hub, which is Shanghai. The Chinese economy is not in the best of places right now, so it's not a massive surprise to me. But for their other gigafactories, they're still in some very, very good places, especially like in Berlin. I'm still anticipating some more news about, or maybe more insights about anything else like that. AI software is continuing to grow. They did mention that the Dojo supercomputer is becoming a lot more efficient. Vehicles and other software are doing well. You can see it right over here, and they're improving their products on a daily basis. We're seeing more news about the battery improvements. You can see right over here, GPU productivity going up too, and we're starting to see energy storage going up very nicely as well. This is another business for Tesla, increasing 220% year over year. You could see the growth in the energy storage deployment. And the gross margins, once again, we started to see positive margins not too long ago. They are slowing down a little bit, but not the end of the world, in my opinion. So going forward, cash, once again, they have quite a bit of liquidity. They're going to be working to maintain that. And while they continue to execute innovation and reduce costs, they do expect their hardware related profits to be accompanied by an acceleration of AI and other profits. So that's good news for them. And then the Cybertruck finally is on track to begin production. Initial production, that's like the official production when they actually start getting them on the streets and etc. later on this year. That's good news for them. So we have more photos that came out. This is what the Cybertruck is looking like, going through mud. Very, very durable, very, very strong. There's more stuff right over here about the production capabilities. And you could see how efficient their tools are. You could see this is when they produced their first Cybertruck and from the actual Gigafactory with the entire team. So huge congratulations to the entire team. And then we have more numbers right over here. You could see their key metrics that are unaudited so far. So they haven't necessarily gone through the audits, but it's still worth mentioning. You could see the net income compared to what we saw before. It is still not very, very high in these overall places. We did see a nice increase in the free cash flow, which is good. So there are some good things that came out from this. And besides that, I mean, I think I'm just going to leave the rest of these for a later video. Things are looking good for them. We also have some financial statements right about here. You can pause the screen right over here. I did go over like a large chunk of these already. The operating expenses did go up quite a bit, though. That's worth mentioning. But besides that, this has been pretty decent for Tesla. Total assets right over here. We saw a nice increase overall for this quarter. Pretty good for them. And then this one right over here, another increase. That is worth mentioning. The valuation of them in their balance sheet is good so far for Tesla. And to add on to that, when it comes to the total liabilities, this went up quite a bit too in the latest quarter to about over 38 billion. Worth mentioning, total liabilities and equities at about the 90 billion mark. So worth noting. Besides that, you could just pause these and just look at them yourselves just to make this quickly. That's about it. So good stuff for Tesla, right? So far, so good, right? Not bad. And we will see what happens moving forward to Tesla because we're going to be waiting for the call to start. Now, right now, Tesla's up at about 0.28%, around that area, still trading, doing the whole back and forth thing. So the best thing to do would be to be patient, and we will see how this ends up going for them. All right. So last but not least, let me just mention that when it comes to the market, we're going to see the whole market being impacted by Tesla. Let me just mention that when it comes to SPY, okay, you're going to be watching this 56.5 resistance. If it breaks this, we could see a lot more upside. It is still possible to get some decent upside on this. If we have very, very strong earnings and the market starts pumping, if it's like super strong. If we get bad earnings, okay, we could see this thing retest 454.5 to 454. If that breaks, 452.69 is very possible. Now, I just want to mention that from a technical standpoint, okay, historically, most of the time when Tesla has earnings, it cools off a bit. If they make some announcements about a recession, if they talk about their margins getting worse, if something like that's announced, if there's anything like that that happens, okay, that could cause a pullback in Tesla. You have to be very careful. It does generally cool off after the earnings call starts. So just be very careful with it. It's getting very tight right now, getting ready for a massive move. So there is a risk of downside, but I'm always open-minded just to be safe. Tomorrow, Tesla's either going to be in the 300s pushing very nicely, or it's going to come tanking all the way down into the 280s, if not the 270s. It's got to be one of those two most likely. And if anything, I did mention that there's a somewhat higher probability of it coming down based off historical data and based off margins and what they say about the future. This is based off what Elon Musk said about the recession and margins and etc. So we'll see if Elon Musk repeats his words or not. If he makes a big adjustment, it could always change. I'm always going to be open-minded nonetheless, but just remember these numbers carefully and just know it's a little bit more likely for there to be downside than upside, but either one of them are possible for Tesla. That's going to affect SPY, so watch those levels. I'm just going to quickly go over just a couple of stocks. For Apple, you're going to be watching, could we break this high right here at 195? If it breaks it, 197, 198, 199, then 200 are all very possible. If it breaks below 194, 192.5 is possible too. And if that fails, this 190 could come. I think it's going to hold up so far. It's showing some strength, trying to hold up. Let's go over the QQQ. If this thing breaks above 386, this high right about here, it has the potential to go up to 387.2, 388. And if that breaks, it could get very close to 390. If it breaks down, if 384 ends up breaking down, it's going to come all the way down to about 382. I just want to note that for the QQQ because it is looking a little weak right now. The Nasdaq's looking a little weak with tech slowing down a bit. So watch this all very carefully. We're going to see which way it goes. It is looking a little bit more bearish from a technical standpoint, but always be open-minded because when it comes to earnings, anything could happen. It's always important to be prepared. Nvidia, let me just note that Nvidia, okay, it's going to be affected by earnings. If you're bearish, you want to see it break below 467.5. If that fails us, it's going to be looking at 465 and then 462 and then 460. If you're bullish, you want to see it break above 471.5. If it breaks that, it's going to go all the way up to this imbalance to fill this gap. Not fill the gap. I'm sorry. Fill this imbalance and get very close to this like 475 area, if not 478. Now, what is this looking like from a technical standpoint? If we just ignore all earnings and we just look at this from a technical standpoint, it's looking bullish. Looks like this thing is forming an inverse head and shoulders. Got a very nice base right here and it's trying to bounce. It looks like it's going to try to do that, but just to be safe, we have to watch those earnings, see how the market moves just for extra confirmation. All right. And that's about it. I think I'm just going to keep it short because the earnings call is going to start soon for Tesla. And I want to get this video out as fast as possible before anything like that happens. For Amazon, watch these ranges carefully, 136 to 134. I think it's going to be stuck in this for some time. If it breaks below 134, it's going to likely come all the way down to 132.5. If it breaks above 136, you're going to be watching 138. For Meta, it's looking a little bit more bullish because we were talking about a potential bounce after it formed this nice inverse head and shoulder structure on the bigger time frames. So like the 4-hour time frame, for example. It's continuing to hold up. We're going to be watching, could this thing maintain its level above 312? If it does so, 316 could be retested. If it breaks that, 318 to 320 become possible. If it breaks down, like I said before, 312, 310, 307, and then 305 are major supports. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure, a nice potential bounce coming on the 4-hour time frame. It looks like Meta is going to maybe cool off a tiny bit, then try pushing and try to get to 320 very soon. It's looking more bullish than bearish from a technical standpoint, but don't forget that earnings could have a big effect on it. All right. The dollar did start to pop a little bit today at the very end of the day. If it keeps going, that could slow the markets down even more. But just to be safe, we're going to be watching how it tests and reacts to the 50 EMA at this 100.66 level. Besides that, I think I went over the majority of the stocks that are very significant. Is there anything else you guys want? Maybe AMD? For this one, if it breaks 117, you're going to be watching it try to make its way up to about 118, then 121, and then 125 could come later on where that imbalances if it gets above 120. For the bears, you want to see it break below 115. If that fails us, 112 will come, then potentially 110 and 109. What do I think about it? Well, I'm still kind of in the middle. It's kind of stuck between support and resistance going back and forth. It's been trading sideways for quite a while. It looks like it really wants to get above 120 though, but it was lacking a bit because of earnings. So we're going to be watching how it moves for now. And we're going to be watching if it could get a nice bounce tomorrow and try to hold above this 50 EMA. If it does so, there's a chance it could make its way up. If it fails to do so, then that's going to be it. Netflix is also down like 5% after earnings came out. We're going to be waiting to see what happens during the calls. If it gets this big bearish crossover on the PPO, that could lead to a lot more downside. So be careful. It's down over 5% so far, but we'll see what happens during the calls for its guidance. Tesla's still very flat right now. It made a massive amount of moves for the first couple of minutes during the after hours. It still is getting very tight, and the earnings call is going to be starting very soon at the time I'm recording this. So watch all of this very carefully. We'll see what happens. And until then, thank you all so much for listening. I may be able to release one more video later on to talk about the call, but I want to get this information out as fast as possible while we wait for the call. Okay, so thank you for listening. Have a great one, everyone. I'll see you guys very soon, possibly tonight for one more video about the call, if not by tomorrow morning to discuss what the technicals are looking like for Tesla during the pre-market. Until then, have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected. Watch your levels very carefully. Be open-minded to anything, and just know that historically, yes, Tesla does tend to sell off after earnings. It's not a guarantee, though. I'm not promising it because I'm not really a fortune teller. I don't know for sure. But always be open-minded and just know this risk just to be safe. Okay? So we'll wait and see how it goes. And until the time comes, thank you for listening and have a good one. Tesla in the market to the moon as the long term is very bright. And peace out.